Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Congratulations to the 47th President, Dr. Cornel West. You can see who our guest is, but before I let my guest introduce himself, I have two announcements I want to get to, and we will touch on these throughout the show. We definitely want to invite everyone to visit the website at cornelwest2024.com. That is where you can learn more about the platform, volunteer, and especially donate. And for our ladies out there, yours truly is sponsoring a virtual slumber party. It is October the 19th at 8 o'clock p.m. There is the link. Please be sure to visit and get your reservation now before they all are not available. So make sure you register for that. And that is a ladies only event. So before I let my guest introduce himself, I'm so excited to be for my guest to be here. And I just don't have any words to say, but thank you to everyone that watched or watches and has been asking me, when is Dr. West going to be on the show? When is Dr. West going to be on the show? Well, he's on the show. So I am going to let you, Dr. West, introduce yourself.
Well, my dear sister, I want to first say that I am deeply blessed to be in conversation with you. And I want to thank you for all of your work and your sacrifice, your witness, your vision, your determination. And I see that shirt that you're wearing. you're so you're so kind. You're so very, very kind. And for me, the good news always is we are in it together. That I
Absolutely.
That's the thing. I like you. We are mama, child, our daddy's kids. We're trying to be a force for good. We're concerned about the plight and predicament of poor people and working people here and around the world. We believe in truth telling and justice seeking. And we believe in organizing and being in solidarity with those who are suffering and doing all that we can to speak to their situation, to bring to bear some kind of alleviation of their situation so that everyday people, in the language of the great Sly Stone, can live lives of decency and dignity. And that's what this campaign is all about. Ain't nothing but a moment in a movement of a great people that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, straightening their backs up and trying to speak the truth. The condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak and to seek justice. And we know justice ain't nothing but what love looks like in public.
Absolutely. Um, I hope you saw the episode that I gave you as an example, but just in case you didn't, the way this show works is I give my guests, and pardon my language, but here it is. I give my guests 5 to 7 of the most idiotic things I have ever heard in terms of supporting your campaign. Um, I usually interject my opinion, but in this case, I'm probably going to step back and let you do the heavy lifting um, because this is a special occasion. Um, you already talked about briefly why it is that you want to run, but if you could expand on that just a little bit, because I've noticed our system, it's just terrible. You have the two major candidates. One says, I'm going to give Israel everything they need. And then out of the same mouth says, oh, I'm for stopping of the innocent Palestinians. And you can't do both because stopping it would just mean I'm going to cut money off.
That's right.
But neither side seems to want to say that. So I wonder how you feel about that.
Yes, yes. I begin with the notion that so much, not all, but so much of American society is spiritually sick and the institutions are morally corrupt. What I mean by that is any society that can have 22% of its children and almost 40% of its black and brown children living in poverty in the richest nation of the history of the world, I consider that spiritual sickness. That's callousness. That's indifference to the plight of the vulnerable. Who is more vulnerable than children? Same would be true in Gaza. You could kill 20,000 Palestinian children in a matter of months and still deny it as genocide and enable it because the American taxpayers' money is going for the military equipment and intelligence to facilitate that kind of genocide. That's sick. That's what Martin Luther King Jr., that's what Fannie Lou Hamer meant in the 1960s when they said, America, you a sick place if you allow for the lynching, if you allow for Jim Crow, you allow for apartheid of black folk and run around and tell the country you a beacon of light when it comes to liberty and democracy. That's deeply sick. And the corruption has to do with the money, power, status, spectacle, image. Both parties deeply corrupt. They both tied to big money. They both tied to big military. They both tied to Silicon Valley and Wall Street and big tech. And what happens? They can't say a mumbling word about serious engagement with poverty, with mass incarceration, with dilapidated housing, with decrepit school systems in poor and working class communities, especially in hoods, in barrios, and on reservations. 62% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and 1% of the population own over 90% of the wealth, and three individuals have wealth equivalent to half the U.S. population. The 160 million people have wealth equivalent to three people. That's worse than medieval Europe in terms of wealth inequality. So what does the Republican Party have today? Say, we're going to create more wealth inequality. What does the Democratic Party have to say? Well, we know it's a problem. We have a progressive wing of Bernie and others, but when it comes to policy, still hardly any movement at all. So I just begin with certain kind of premises and just test and see whether it's true. Spiritual sickness, moral decay, moral decadence, and how do we turn it around? How are we going to be countervailing examples of shattering the sickness, shattering the unbelievable indifference toward the vulnerable, and making sure that poor people and working people are at the center of our policy, at the center of our vision? I don't see that at all in the two dominant major parties.
Yep, that is exactly. I agree with everything that you just said. So let's get this started. The number one thing I've heard as a person that collected petitions um, is this one. I'm sure you've heard it because I've heard you talk about this, and I've definitely heard Dr. Abdullah talk about this. A vote for you is a vote for Donald Trump.
Yo, yeah, I get that all the time, my dear sister. And I sure appreciate all that effort, blood, sweat, and tears you put into getting those petitions. It makes a difference. We're surprising the country and the world in terms of the number of states we're on. But no, 40%, 38.5, roughly 40% of our American citizens who can vote do not vote at all. That's a larger percentage than any of the other parties. Why? Because most have concluded that the two parties are corrupt. I agree. Most have concluded the two parties are characterized by legalized bribery, normalized corruption, and politicized larceny. That's what most of American politics is. That's why our politicians in both parties are so cowardly. They don't want to make serious decisions because their money flows from certain donors. So they have to stay within certain contexts, within certain contours. So that when people say, well, a vote for West is a vote for Trump because those who would be voting for West would ordinarily vote for Harris, but they don't recognize large numbers of our folk who come my way would never vote at all. They say that to me quite explicitly. Oh, hello, hello. Can you still see me?
I can see you just fine.
Oh, okay. I can't see you though. What happened? Oh, okay. But you still see me. I can't see you though. Oh my God, I want to be able to see your lovely face. But I'll keep going. So that so that 40% of the folks say they would not vote at all. Oh wait.
Now,
Oh yeah, yeah. There we go. Thanks, man. Thank
okay,
you.
can you see me now?
Yeah, my beloved wife fixed this thing. Uh, so that there might be some folk who are upset with Harris because of her support of genocide, because of her failure to talk about poverty, and then would vote for me. But that's not a them saying they're forced to vote for Trump. People are thinking for themselves, thinking critically, and they're voting for candidates that they think agree with what they think. Now, how is that a pro-Trump vote? Well, it's only a pro-Trump vote if people figure politics is not about thinking. It's not about critical reflection. It's just a power game. And if it's just a power game, then you vote for Harris or Trump because the other candidates don't mean anything. And the only status that other candidates can ever have is a spoiler, period. That's how they view it. So the issues you raise about genocide, the issue you raise about poverty, we don't care about the issues West raises. We don't care about legacy of Martin Luther King, Fannie Lou Hamer. All that is just empty talk. Politics is only about the checkers, and the checkers on the board are power moves. It's all strategic, it's all tactical, and therefore all that talk about justice and truth, push all that stuff out. Everything is transactional. Everything is utilitarian. Everything is Machiavellian. It's like Machiavelli in The Prince. Politics is just about fear, manipulation, domination, period. Now, if one accepts that framework, then you can understand why somebody would say something like, well, a vote for West, a vote for Trump, because politics ain't nothing but about transaction and power anyway. We're not concerned about issues. Well, if that's the only framework they have and the only framework possible is only the two-party system, period, then you've already foreclosed, you already precluded, you've already assumed that anything I have to say is not worth listening to. And there's a good number of people out there who believe that, my dear sir.
Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing.
Ooh,
It's a very real thing.
ain't
And
that the
you
truth?
don't have to answer this question. It's just a thought that I had while you were speaking. So many times what happens is they will scare you with Trump, and I'm saying they, the Democrats, but they'll
Right,
never tell you what it is they're going to do.
that's true.
And I have noticed, Harris keeps talking about the middle class, the middle class. What about the poor? What about the working poor? What about the people that sleep in their cars outside of their place of employment? What
That's
about food deserts? What about? And we don't get that. We just get basically what Tim Black says, and I love Trump bad. We got to vote for this. And as a voter, that's frustrating because people will literally tell me, this is wrong. She needs to be against genocide. But they'll still vote for it as their vote isn't saying that they support those policies. It is just a very frustrating thing to engage with people who think like that for me.
Oh, I agree, and I'm glad you mentioned Brother Tim Black's name because I love that brother. I respect that brother, and as you know, he's catching hell like the rest of us, and he's still swinging. He and Sister Sheila, his magnificent and marvelous wife, that they out there trying to hold on to some truth and justice, and trying to hold to some love. I mean, how can you love black folk and not be concerned about their situation? How can you love uh, black folk and not want to tell the truth about their plight? Uh, Now, it's also true, I think, that there's always going to be a slice of folk who would agree with you and I, and then figure out, okay, somehow I've got to drink a little cognac, maybe hold off on the crack cocaine, but just drink a little cognac and go in and vote because it's just an anti-Trump vote. You can't stand Harris, and Trump's a gangster, and you don't want him to take over. Now, I'm not convinced of that argument, but there's going to be some folk who do that. And they're going to be those same folk after the election who will recognize what we were saying was not only true, but we'll end up working with them over time. We understand that. But it's the problem with the pro Harris vote is that people want to lie, or they want to lie to themselves. They want to act like Harris really has a concern about the Palestinians. If you had a concern, you pulled the plug, you defund the Israeli killing machine, and you make sure that the children and the innocent folk are no longer murdered. If you really care about poor people, then you get an anti-poverty program in place across the board, whatever form it takes, basic income. If you're really concerned about the homeless, you make sure they got affordable housing, and make sure they got whatever kind of services they need for mental health or whatever it is, whatever slice of that community we're talking about. You treat them with dignity. So it's the people who are pro-Harris who want to lie to the people. See, that's what's more upsetting to me. There's always going to be some folk who agree with you and I and still say, Brother West, we're going to go in with our mask on and still vote because we want to push Trump out. Oh, well, I think you ought to vote for me, but I understand. At least you're not lying to yourself. But it's the lies that hide the crimes that reinforce the callousness. That's what upsets me, and you see that among the elected officials. When you see even the progressives, Sister AOC, Brother Bernie, and talk about how great Biden was as a president. Quit lying. How great the economy is because we got low statistics. Statistics don't measure the levels of poverty. They don't measure people who are not even looking for jobs. They don't measure the people who have two jobs and still living in poverty. So it looks like you got low unemployment, but the people are still suffering. We start with the people suffering, not the statistics. This is the best economy we can ever have. Have you gone through the hood and seen the levels of social misery? What are we talking about here? That's the thing that we radically call into question across the board. And that's why we continue to be a threat. That's why we continue to be a thorn in their flesh. They don't want to hear the truth.
No, they do not. I want to get to my second one, and I said, Tracy, don't ask this question, but I have to.
You ask any question
Um,
you like, Sister Tracy, straight out of Indianapolis.
um, this this is something I hear as a third party voter, and I've voted for independent candidates for a long time. I'm not gonna tell how old I am, but I'll put it in this way: I was 18 when Bill Clinton ran for president, so that should tell you how old I am.
Ooh, that was 1992.
Yes. But
You
I'm
are
not
well
telling how
preserved.
old I
You
am.
are
I'm just
well
saying do the
preserved.
subtraction and you'll figure it out. So,
Well maintained and well preserved, my dear sister.
well, minus the gray hair, but well, um, but I've always noticed people will say this one, and it really makes me angry. And sometimes I have to get off social media because I find myself getting angry with this.
Mhm.
A vote for Dr. Cornel West is a wasted vote.
Yeah, I get that all the time. I get that all the time. And I take them back historically in the 1850s when Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman and others who were not even citizens but knew that if they had a chance to vote, they'd have to vote between two slaveholders, a liberal slaveholder and a conservative slaveholder. Which one you gonna vote for? No, we're abolitionists. We want the abolition of slavery. We don't want the liberal version of slavery. Give the slaves 2 days off rather than one day and thinking you're making a moral breakthrough. That's the liberal version. Conservative version, work them every day to death. The average slave died at 27 years old at that time. No, they had to go third party. They formed the Liberty Party. And that Liberty Party became, through free soil in the Republican Party, that led toward the breaking of the back of barbaric American slavery, but it led toward the Civil War, 750,000 dead, because the electoral political system couldn't hold it. It spilled over. It spilled over. So when I think, okay, well, what would people do in the 1850s that they had to choose between two slaveholders? We can even bring it closer with Fannie Lou Hamer and others. In the 1950s and 60s, both parties supported Jim Crow, Jane Crow, apartheid. Didn't say a word about lynching. Is that a wasted vote if a candidate says we want both parties to say something about lynching, that lynching is wrong? Well, if you believe that any kind of moral concern is empty, then okay, I guess it is an empty vote. But no, why should we be voting for any kind of party that is enabling lynching, Jim Crow, Jane Crow, American terrorism? And that's what was the case up until the 1960s and 70s. Both parties supported Jim Crow. They supported apartheid. They had a liberal version of it. They had a conservative version of it. Well, it's still wrong. And it's
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I keep going back to the situation in Gaza, the Congo, the Sudan, because we
That's
don't
right.
want to forget about their experiencing genocide also under the military industrial complex.
That's right.
And I wonder, when is enough going to be enough? When are people going to just stand up and say, I've had enough of these two parties that don't literally don't care about me? They don't care about my issues. They don't care about the poor. What do you believe it's going to take?
Well, that's a profound question. We just don't know. We just don't know. You got two parties that are still very much tied to the fossil fuel companies. Fossil fuel companies, with their trillions and trillions of dollars of profit, are shaping so much of the policy of both parties. And of course, that has to do with the end of the earth as we know it. That looks like people would rather be blinded and gaslighted, as it were, in terms of the future of the planet, uh, by the fossil fuel companies that are concerned with one thing: short term profit, more money, more money. So you just wonder, what will it take for people to reach a point and say, we've got to have some alternative. The two-party system is a matter of national security. We are going under as a people, as a nation, as a species, with this organized greed, this predatory capitalism. And the same is true when it gets tied in to deep layers of white supremacy and male supremacy. It's a We don't really know when the awakening will take place, my dear sister. We just don't know. We really don't.
I you know, boy, I could say so much, and I'm just gonna stop because I'm gonna get to some comments very briefly. Um, you don't have to comment on them, but I see a lot of people in the comment section, and keep the comments coming and share that we are live. Go to Facebook, or well, Facebook is all I go to, Twitter, wherever you can share this link at and let people know we are on. I'm just going to get to them very quickly and we'll move on. Parker, hello, Parker. You're excited for this. I am too. Jason is in the building.
Ooh, I'm still so sorry. I can't see you, though. I just got dark on my screen.
Oh, that's okay as long as you can hear me.
But as long as they can
Um,
hear me and you can see me, and that's good.
I
That's
can
good.
see you fine.
Wonderful.
Nelson, one of my regular viewers, says there he is, the best candidate for president we have today. We love you for putting yourself in the race.
God bless him. Tell him we are in it together. I keep coming back. This is a mutual solidarity we got here.
Yeah, I'm just
Absolutely.
making sure that all these comments get on here just to make sure. And I'll move on to my third one because this is the one that probably makes me the angriest.
Mm.
Well, not angry. I try not to get angry, but it makes me scratch my head. In terms of what people are actually saying. Oh, this person, this next person, I do want you to address this. And I know you know what the term troll is. Um, and we have a person that says Trump 2024.
Oh my God.
Now, of course, they see the title, and I could say so much, but I want to keep it classy. So I will not say what I think. I will let you respond to it.
Oh no, no. I think that Trump represents the worst of the American empire in terms of organized greed and weaponized hatred. He's beneath mediocrity when it comes to both the things he has to say and how he says it. But he's a sign and a symptom of a sick society. So I don't really isolate him at all. And he is a human being, and as a Christian, I'm concerned about the humanity in each and every one of us. But he uses it in a gangster-like way, and he's a sign and symbol of an empire that is turning on itself, that tells itself to scapegoat the most vulnerable, be they immigrants, be they black people, be they poor people, and others. He acts as if he's speaking on behalf of poor people, but he's actually pursuing policies that's crushing poor people. And I think that he feels as if he is the only legitimate alternative to the Democratic Party when we are presenting ourselves as a visionary and courageous alternative to a Democratic Party. And yet he's got big money. What did they raise? $400 million last month. The Democrats raised $540 million. Can you imagine? Our campaign lucky to raise a 1.2 million over the 14, 15 months because they're tied into big money. We don't believe in PACs. We don't believe in corporate sponsorings. We don't believe in corporate donors in this because we have individual citizens who give. And so if they want to opt for Trump, they think that Trump is the best thing for the country. I think it's an act of self destruction. I think that Trump is leading the country toward a civil war. The civil strife is already there. And yet, people have a right to be wrong. And if they want to use their energies to push toward the next civil war, we're going to use our energies to push against it.
Absolutely. Penny has a great comment, and I do want your thoughts on this. This is something I don't know enough about it to comment, but I've heard people say that they think big oil should be nationalized. I hate to say I don't know, but I don't know. I think I know what this one means, but I'm not understanding how it would exactly work.
Well, one, the principle of nationalizing big oil is a very precious principle, which is oil should be in the interest of the public, not in the interest of just private sector that's obsessed with making money. Because once you have a something as crucial and as fundamental as oil's like the army. It's interesting that the U.S. Army is not under the private sector. U.S. Army is under public accountability tied to public interest. But oil and gold, coal and gas and so forth, they're all private. And what does that mean? That means that there's no significant public accountability of it. And so I believe in democratization. I believe in nationalization, but all that means is putting these very important industries under the aegis of common good and public interest, not private profit and corporate profit.
Thank you, because I was like, I think they mean this, but I'm not okay. So when I'm not sure, it doesn't matter if people say, "Oh, she's so silly and dumb." She doesn't know. I'm just gonna ask because when I don't know, I ask. I
You
didn't
would
know what that meant.
in no way dumb. I can testify to that right quick and right now.
Um, my next question, and this one, I I was watching CNN, and you happened to appear on there. I don't remember the name of the reporter,
Mm.
but she was talking about, the DNC is telling people, oh, well, his campaign, it doesn't mean much. He's a Russia bot. He's a tool of the Republican Party, but yet they offered you a cabinet position, and money to get out of the race. Of course, they would never do that, but they offered you those two things, and the question was, would you get out of the race? You clearly said, no, I'm in this race. And then the reporter responds, well, you sound on the fence. Talk about how much the media is in the back pockets of the duopoly.
Oh yeah, no, indeed, indeed. I mean, the CNN and MSNBC is just outright state propaganda for the Democratic Party. There's no doubt about that. They've
Oh,
been
you
that.
mean MSDNC? That's what I call them. I don't call them NBC. I'm like, no, they're MSDNC now.
no, no, but it's true. That's why they won't bring in any critical voices talking about the genocide in Gaza. You see that, you've never seen a sustained treatment of the Palestinian families who are undergoing the kind of genocide and ethnic cleansing and apartheid like. You'll see the Israeli hostage families there. And there's nothing wrong with that. Hostage families should be on TV. We're concerned about the suffering of everybody. But you've got an occupation, you've got a domination taking place, and you've got Israeli terrorism that is promoting a genocide against the Palestinians. You never get the Palestinian side, never get the sympathy for the Palestinian victims, never get any serious empathy for the Palestinian children on neither one of those networks. You see, that's just one example among others. And so when I was asked the question, I said no. They wanted to act like I was still equivocating, and so I said, no, my dear sister Laura, I was pretty direct about that. Not
You
that.
gave a very clear answer. I'm like, how does she interpret that? I just, and I rarely watch corporate mainstream media. I just don't, I can't take it. I'm just like, no. But I'm like, he clearly answered that question. How do you interpret that? But again, that's their job. They're
That's
doing what they were put in place to
that's
do.
exactly right.
Here's the next one, and you may dip out on this one. I don't know, but I'm going to ask it.
Mhm.
So there were a series of debates amongst third party candidates, and you weren't a part of those. And I thought, well, where's Dr. West? Where's he at? Why isn't he debating? I know that if you were on those debate stages, you would have just wiped the stage clean with the facts you bring and the passion you bring. For our viewers that believe that you should have been at the debate, can you kind of talk about what happened with those debates? Was it a scheduling conflict? Was it a I don't want to be on the stage with this person?
Well, the thing is, I mean, I can understand the arguments going in a number of different ways. Some people say you just debate anybody who comes along. Other people say no, you don't want. You want to be able to debate the folks who are not just commanding the attention, but the folks who you're actually fighting very much against. That the candidates that they had there, folks who have such overlapping agreement on our policies and so forth, that it would easily lapse into something personal. And of course, I've always, I mean, for the last number of months, I've had some very ugly uh, uh, experiences with the Green Party and Jill Stein, and I just didn't want the debate to end up being that kind of fight between Jill Stein and myself, because it would almost inevitably lead in that direction because we agree so much on policy, and yet, I view so much of what she has done as generating a lack of trust for me, and lost a lot of respect, and so much dishonesty and disrespect. And you probably know of some of the recent vicious attacks of the campaign manager on my wife, on Anahita. You see, I'm a black man who has no patience whatsoever for anybody attacking my family, and so it would just unavoidably spill over into something like that. And people don't need to see that. We got to focus on suffering and resistance of oppressed people. We don't need to focus on levels of dishonesty and disrespect coming from one party vis-a-vis another party, or one candidate vis-a-vis another candidate. So those are the two main reasons why I held off any kinds of debates.
I thank you so much for answering that question. Even doing my little bitty podcast that I wish more people would watch, I got that question. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not Dr. West. I can't speak for the campaign. I'm just a volunteer. But I wanted to ask that because even I was like, well, if you want to debate Harris, well, don't you have to debate? That makes perfect sense to me. So back to the list. This is one. I've heard this one, and literally someone said this on Facebook, and I almost fell on the floor laughing. I could not believe that someone was still bringing up Russia, and this is 2024.
Wow.
The consensus amongst my vote blue, no matter who friends, and that's what I call them, is that your campaign is being funded and supported by not only the Russians, but the Republican Party.
Oh, what a lie! What a lie! What? One is that and I know, my dear sister, that the last report we had what, $12,000 in the campaign. We are broke as the Ten Commandments financially. That has been very difficult. Why? Because the Democratic Party spent millions and millions of dollars to push us off ballots. And so we've had a number of lawyers. Thank God for Brother Mike. Thank God for Brother Oliver, who've been heroic, trying to push back, because we have no money for lawyers. As lawyers engaging in defense of what we've tried to do for free. We don't have enough money to even sustain our staff in the way that we should. We don't have enough money for me to take the kind of swings across the nation, let alone with Sister Melina. So if anybody was supporting our campaign, and all we got is $12,000, and oftentimes we have less than that, then you would figure, well, it sure is a low grade charity, though, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think you're
No grade.
froze, Dr. West. Like you're speaking, I can hear you, but you're not moving for some reason.
Is that right? I'm moving. Can you see me now?
I can see you, but it's like you're froze. Your screen is froze for some odd
Oh
reason.
Lord, I don't know. Should I go get my wife to see what's going
Yes,
on?
I've been thinking she fixed
Let
it
me
the
go get.
first time. She may be able to the second time. And while Dr. West is doing that, speaking of fundraisers, um, yours truly is sponsoring a virtual ladies only slumber party October the 19th, 2024 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There is the address. Tickets start at $5. We are going to have a lot of fun. We're going to play bingo, charades. We'll have a fashion show per se. And tickets again, they start at $5. There you are. Okay, so
Am I
tickets
back?
start at
Let's
five
go.
dollars per person. So ladies, make sure you get your tickets for the virtual slumber party that I am sponsoring. Thank you very much. As soon as you said fundraise, I'm like, go back to there and talk
Oh
about.
no, but that's good, because the people need to know that we've got a magnificent staff. We've got heroic volunteers. The staff is hardly being paid. I've never taken a penny in 16 months when I first announced way back in early June. And so the idea that somehow we getting all of this money, I think what people are actually alluding to is that we've had a one or two libertarian lawyers who have been willing to work with our lawyers to fight back against the Democrats. There's no doubt about that. That's very true. Uh, uh, and in addition, there's citizens who have come together, unbeknownst to myself, or unbeknownst to anybody in the campaign, who have tried to get more signatures. There's no doubt about that. But that has
Yeah,
nothing to do with financial support. It has nothing to do with monies provided. It has nothing to do with the kind of corruption and manipulation and viewing myself as a pawn for some reactionary organization, be it the GOP or anything else. Those are just lies. People just lying.
absolutely. And Back to the list. So the next one is one that infuriates me because I don't know what people mean when they say it.
Mm.
So the contention is that you're not a serious candidate. And my problem with that statement is one, they never define what they mean by serious candidate. But yet again, I keep hearing this over and over again. You're not serious. You're not serious. If you speak to those people who say that you're not a serious candidate,
Yeah, it depends on what they mean by serious. If by serious they mean that the Democratic Party can raise 540 million in 1 month, and the Republicans will raise 420 million, and I can't raise 400 million in 1 month. And to be serious, you need to have 400 million in 1 month. Then I can understand them saying that. No, you're right. If serious means $400 million a month, then I guess I'm not serious. But if serious means raising the issues, going out, breaking one's neck, working with heroic volunteers who are trying to highlight the issues of poor and working people and are having impact on the public conversation, having impact on the elected officials, having impact on the Democratic Party, that strikes me as very, very, very serious. But if serious only means $500 million a month. Okay, no, we're not serious because we broke. That's true. We're not serious because we're broke. But
and
I
yeah,
refuse to accept that definition of serious.
and again, it's just like I said, and I'll say it again. Trump derangement syndrome is real. And
Mm.
it's as though people just try to come up with any
Any
just
rationalization,
throw it
any
in the bucket. Okay, this will work.
absolutely. That's it.
Um,
But then I go back historically again. You said I would say, well, they said that the civil rights movement wasn't serious because they couldn't raise as much money as the Democrats or the Republicans, because they couldn't generate legislation overnight. They hit the streets, they went to jail, they told the truth, they were bearing witness for justice. They were not serious financially because they didn't have enough money. Well, again, what does that mean? That means that the Black Freedom Movement's never been serious based on that definition. We never had overwhelming amounts of money. We had overwhelming amounts of love for the people. We had overwhelming amounts of willingness to serve and sacrifice for a cause, even to die. Well, they weren't we weren't serious even when they died. Oh, get out of my face. You don't understand what serious means. Please, please. That's like saying your mom ain't serious about loving you because she can't put you in a mansion on the other side of town and you want to live in a mansion and that's the only definition of serious. No, get down and understand how your mama loves you and go on to school and do what you got to do.
exactly, exactly. And of course, I have a fire truck coming down the street. Of course. Um,
That's all right.
that's what you get when you live up the street from a fire station. But the next question I have is this one, and and then I'm gonna have you. I'm gonna ask some questions about the Justice for All Party
Yes,
in a
yes.
moment. So one of the conditions. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Nicholas. Please like and share this
Ooh, Brother
on this
Nicholas,
channel.
Brother Nicholas.
I have never.
It's a tribute to Sister
Oh
Tracy.
no, it. Yes, but please like and share. As a person that's never asked anybody to subscribe, because I don't do that on this show, I do that on my other podcast. But I can ask you to like this podcast and share it, please, to everybody that you can. I forgot to ask that. So the next one is again, these are all silly objections that I literally would never hear of a party that didn't even bother to have a primary. And they've done that for the last, let's see, 1, 2, 3 election cycles, but okay, whatever. Um, you can't be taken, and this is one on the serious. How can we trust you when you first started out with, and I'm not going to call it what I call it normally, so I'm going to be respectful because Dr. West is here. Normally, you all know what I would call this party, but since he's here, I'm not going to do it. Moving for a People's Party. Then you went to the Green Party. Then you ran independent, and now you're establishing the Justice for All Party.
Yes, but I think that it's a sign of trying to be true to a calling that says I'm going to run for justice and spill over into the electoral political system, and then spilling over, you try one part and you see it as radically inadequate. You stay. The last thing you want to do is be caught up in some ossified, petrified party. I then moved to the Green Party because Chris, my dear brother Chris Hedges, had suggested I do that, and I tried to work with them, with Jill Stein and Jamo Baraka and others who were a part of that. And I saw there was no way that I could speak the kind of truth and seek justice and be free in the way in which I am in that party. And I went independent. Then we recognized, oh, lo and behold, we've got to both have a legacy after the election and in certain states to be part of a party. You're able to get on a ballot easier than being an independent. So if you're an independent, you got 50,000 petitions, you have another party and it's 5,000. You say it behooves you, if you're concerned about running, if you're concerned about pursuing justice and telling the truth, and being and having a substantive campaign for president, then you say, oh, lo and behold, I'm concerned about the future and I'm concerned about this ballot access on these states. And so we form a justice for all. And it's been a beautiful thing. Now, as you know, my dear sister, we've also been very, very blessed to have the Aurora Party in Alaska put us on the ballot. They were the first ones, right? Progressive Party in Oregon, United Party in Colorado, the only black political party on the ballot in any state in the whole country, United Citizens Party in South Carolina, founded by Clyburn when he was a radical fighting a Jim Crow Democratic Party. He was an insurgent in 1969. Same was true with the Bernie Sanders Party that he founded in Vermont. That party endorsed us and put us on the ballot. The Green Mountain Party for Peace and Freedom, when Bernie was much more of a insurgent candidate against the Democratic Party, had his own party. So those parties do play a role, and I do acknowledge that, and I'm very blessed to be a part of those of their efforts to put me on the party. So we have a combination of smaller parties, Justice for All Party, and then we've got write-ins. So we got 20 states that include the first two. Then we got 25 states right in, and then there's going to be about 4 or 5 states that it's impossible to get on because the two-party system just chokes out any possibility of getting on those states.
Yeah, absolutely. When you started talking about ballot access, Indiana is one of the hardest
Mm.
states in the nation to
Yes,
get signatures.
yes, yes, yes.
Not to bring up the Stein campaign, but they got 50,000 signatures, but they threw just enough out to not put her on the ballot.
Wow, wow.
RFK surprisingly did make the ballot.
Hmm.
I don't know how that happens, but of course, we didn't. We're one of the write-in states, but
Right. That's right.
again, Indiana's a hard state. I always just want to say we definitely were out there, but just wanted to make that point.
But I salute your tremendous efforts and all of those who worked alongside of you. Because see, one of the things that upsets me about these folks talking about Russians and Republicans, volunteers like you have just brought joy to my heart because all of us are working for free in order to do all that we can. And when people come along and say, oh, you got all this big money, oh, you got all of this help, are you going to downplay the role of these volunteers like Sister Tracy and others? Please, I'll go to my grave defending Sister Tracy and the volunteers who have played such a crucial role in all of these month after month after month, trying to get on the ballot, getting the word out, making sure the signs are available, making sure the message is heard.
Absolutely, thank you for that. Because I think we all, the role of a volunteer, especially when collecting petitions, is not an easy
I know.
thing to talk about, and that's part of the reason I started this show. Um, don't
Hmm.
be offended, but my intention was
That's
never to have
cool.
you on this show because what I wanted to do, and what I'm still going to continue to do until our last show, and I'm going to talk about that very briefly at the end, is to talk to supporters.
Hmm.
And why are supporters going into the streets and collecting signatures and having meetings and raising money and doing all these things? Because the other two, they could care less. They'll tell people, oh, this is for volunteers. I have yet to be approached by any volunteer from any campaign, period.
Interesting.
But we mean it, right? We
In-
mean it. We're in those spaces. So again, that's just a point I wanted to make because I just think volunteers are so overlooked. And really, without volunteers, you cannot make it happen. And which is why I'm telling everybody to go to CornelWest2024.com. Sign up. Even though the election is what, 50 some less than 50 days away, I haven't
that's true.
kept count. You can still volunteer. You can still read the platform, which again I say is the best platform I've ever read. Um,
Well, Brother Ralph Nader said
mm.
it was the best platform, the most progressive platform he'd ever seen in American history. Now, I wouldn't go that far myself, yet my wife is still so kind to help keep us going here. But from coming from Ralph Nader, he's run for president 4 times, as you know. Green
I
Party.
have to agree with Ralph Nader
I
because
so.
it really addresses what it does for me is what the Democrats won't do.
Mm.
You put black people as the center, but you didn't leave everybody else behind.
Ooh, I
And
love that. I
for
love
me, that just makes, I have always said, I will not vote for a candidate that does not focus on black people issues. I'm tired of voting. I'm just not going to, I'm tired of voting. I vote, but I'm not going to vote for
that.
candidates that don't have my interest as a black woman. I don't have to tell people I'm black. You can look at me and tell them I'm black. So I'm always going to ride with my people. And
That,
until you center me, I'm not listening to you. I'm not listening to someone that says, I'm not going to do anything specific for the black people. You just lost me. You literally lost me. You
I'm
lost
telling
me. Like,
you,
okay, I don't need to hear anything else that you say.
that
And
is so very, very true. My
yeah,
God,
so
my God.
that's what I think is important is that you centered black people, but you didn't forget about anybody else.
All the others,
And
all the others.
that's what I think is so missing from leftist politics is they just leave black people behind.
That
And
is so.
it infuriates me to the uttermost.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. And as you know, I mean, black music to me is one of the great frameworks and models. And can you imagine Aretha Franklin, Curtis Mayfield, John Coltrane, and Sarah Vaughan not centering black creativity, but the creativity is for everybody, and the sounds and the music affects everybody's soul, but it's coming from inside of you. And what has been poured into you? Well, it's your mama, your daddy, it's your church, it's your mosque, it's your synagogue, it's your own tradition, and that's true for any people. But when it comes to black folk, oh no, we supposed to be concerned with everybody but us. Hey, that's been part of the problem. That's what white supremacy is. These people don't count. These black people don't matter, and that's why when Brother Israel and Sister Kiana say, Brother West, Sister Tracy has got a podcast that is magnificent and it's going to be a wonderful thing to you to be on. I said, you ain't lying. And I'm blessed to be on your podcast.
Thank you so much. You don't know how much I appreciate that. I really do. I try my best to do what I think I can do. The last one before I have you talk about the after the election, I'm kind of setting this question up. So many of the people that have said, Tracy, when is Dr. West going to be on the show? That's who I want to talk to first. So
Mm.
after this podcast, I don't want you all to ever ask me again when Dr. West is going to be on the podcast. See, he's right there. So you don't have to keep asking. And don't ask, when is he coming back? Don't do that. Don't do that.
I'd come back now. I'd
I
come
know, but I'm just saying,
back.
you don't know how much pressure. I mean, literally, every guest, I'm like, okay, see, what had happened was I'm trying to just interview you, not Dr. West. And I know why people said it because it's obviously a good idea, but I'm just like, okay, we're gonna get him on the show, and maybe he'll come back after the election, but I'm about to set my question up. And I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't, I can rephrase it.
Uh-huh.
So the work, you call this a moment in a movement,
That's right.
which means to me there's work after the election that needs to be done.
That's right.
Talk about why it is that you want justice for all to be the center of that work.
Well, I would put it this way, my dear sister. When brother, uh, there's a wonderful brother, Deruba, who was member of the Black Panther Party many years ago. Went to jail 19 years. He came out. He's living now in Accra, Ghana, but he's been a freedom fighter for almost 40 years. Just turned 80, really 60 years. Just turned 80, and he called for a united front, an anti-fascist united front of different groups, parties, pre-parties, institutions to come together to make sure we keep track of all the anti-fascist elements of whoever wins, of whoever wins. Because you see the censorship, the violation of civil liberties, we see it with Yoruba 3 under the Democrats. You're going to get that more and more under Trump. You see it with the Palestinian students on campus. I was blessed to be faculty advisor for the students for Palestine at Harvard. And we could hardly oftentimes even get a room because of the discrimination against the Palestinian students. And I was also faculty advisor for the Ebony Ensemble. Oh no, what was the name of it? It was the Black Gospel Group, and we were able to get a room because we've been around for 50 some years. You see, but what does that mean? There's going to be more repression of Palestinian students. There's going to be more repression of radical voices. There's going to be more repression of truth tellers after the election. And so you're going to need a united front. So when Deruba calls for that, Kalanji calls for that, I want to be a part of that. Justice for All would be a part of that as well. So that we both have part of United Front and then also have our own institutional legacy as part and parcel of that United Front. That's what I have in mind.
Okay, so apparently what I was thinking is not correct. Because the way I interpret it, and
Mm-hmm.
again, thank you for the correction, I'm thinking, some people say don't even pay attention to electoral politics. And I don't think that's the framework that people should work with.
Right.
Protests, organize, direct actions, and politics, they both go together.
I agree with that. I agree with you, my dear sister.
Um,
I agree with that.
I was thinking, oh, well, somebody in Colorado wants to run under the Truth and Justice Party, and I'm not calling it right, Justice for All Party. I'm going to get the name right. I'm going to get the name right. The Justice for All Party. So they run for Congress or school board or what have you. That's the way I was thinking.
See, I think it's both and. I think it's both and.
Okay.
It's inside of the system by means of electoral politics, outside of the system by means of collective pressure, social movements, organized power being brought to bear. But it's both and. It's always both and for me. Very much so.
And final one, and I said I wasn't going to get to the comments, but I appreciate everyone. Um, Again, please share this. Please share this, share this, share this, share this. We need a lot more people watching this um, than we have now. So maybe they'll watch it after this goes off. I hope so. But there is a thought that I've been having, and I've been
Mhm.
encouraged to do this by my audience, is to somehow continue this show, and this is to the audience. And you can chime in if you want to, Dr. West,
Mhm.
to continue this podcast even after the election. And the one thing I struggle with it is, will the need for action be there? One, the name would most likely have to change. Second is, would that energy, the energy that we have now that's forming, would it be there? And thirdly, that's not a word, but lastly, would, we tend to pay attention to just the presidential elections in this country.
Right,
We
right,
don't pay attention to mayors and city councils where you can make a significant difference. Would, I guess that goes into the energy question. So I struggle with that. So next, in 2 weeks, everybody, I will have a survey. Well, no, since a lot of people are here, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. If you think that I should continue this podcast in some form, type the number 1. If you just think, you know what, Tracy, you did what you were going to do, it's time to wrap it up, talk about rank cereals and go back to that, type 2. So if you think I should continue, 1, and if you think I should just wrap it up, 2. I'm going to let my audience answer that question. And I will just heed myself to that. So the last one, and this one, I said I'm not going to bring this up, but I thought, well, he's right here, so I got to ask him about it. A lot of people will say, Dr. West has great ideas. I respect Dr. West. I think he's a great person. He's a philosopher. He's a philanthropist. He's a scholar. He's been active. But they will say to me, now is not the time to run. And that maybe you should concentrate on 2028 instead of 2024.
Yeah, but then you raise the question: when is the time?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I'm
When
so glad you
is-
said that.
I'm telling you, when is the time? But it's true that history is so unpredictable, incomplete, and unfinished that things are so contingent. Uh, we could be at war in the Middle East in just a matter of weeks, and a whole different context shift. 4 years from now, uh, we could have fascism leading toward fighting in the streets, civil strife. You just don't know. 4 years from now, we could have a moral and spiritual awakening, and people could become preoccupied with justice and push back fashion. We don't know. So, when is the time? But black folk have always been told that. Well, Harriet Tubman, now is not the time. I don't know why you're just so impatient, full of all of this anger and rage and righteous indignation. A. Philip Randolph, now is not the time. Just wait. America's going to come around. Sooner or later, they're going to treat poor people and black people right. No. When is the right time? Right now. You got to act now. You got to speak now. You got to fight now. You got to sing your song and write your poem now. You got to love your children now. You got to love the people now. You got to sacrifice now. You got to be willing to live and die now. That's what I'd say to him, my dear sister. But I know I got this 4 o'clock thing I'm running late to. But this has been wonderful and magnificent.
Thank you so much. I had already told my audience, don't expect him to stay, but you stayed way longer than I thought. Parker, when Dr. West wins, we would just call it Dr. West has won. Now what?
Ooh, Lord, Lord. And you win in a lot of different ways. You win election, you win for your cause, but you also win for your soul. You want to
Yeah.
be able to bear witness and hold the torch, hold that torch up high that you've been able to grasp from the older generation and then pass that torch on to the younger generation. You don't want to pass a torch of selling out. You want to pass a torch of conformity and cowardliness. You want to pass a torch of courage, pass a torch of compassion, pass a torch of deep, humble service to poor and working people here and around the world.
Thank you so much, Dr. West, for coming on this show. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to just let Dr. West run off to his appointment because I don't want to be the cause of somebody being late.
No,
Thank you.
but love
Thank
you, love
you.
you, love you, love
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Sister.
Thank you.
Take good care now.
Have a great day.
Have a wonderful one. This was lovely. Wonderful.
Okay, everybody. How do you all think that went? How do you all think that went? It is done. You never ever again have to ask me, when is Dr. West going to be on the show? He was on here. You saw him. I saw him. He was here answering my questions. So I'm going to get to these comments and we're going to just hit. And remember, share this. Share this. This is probably the biggest interview I've had live. So to my question of should I continue the show, everyone is saying 1. So I got to think about what new iteration that it would come in. Paris, I think this. Thank you for checking in. 64 Civil Rights Act, 65 Voters' Rights Act, Thurgood Marshall appointed to the Supreme Court of the United States, affirmative action and fair housing were committed committed efforts of the civil rights movement. Yes, Parker. I said if once he wins, it'll be called something else. Rude by the way says now is always the time to run. Exactly. Nelson, we love someone who was real, and Cornel West is the real deal. West Abdullah for president because progressives never give up, never surrender. Red Berets, Medicare for all. I might have highlighted your comment, but again, I said I'm not going to be able to check in with everybody today. There will be another Trump, a more effective and worse Trump. We would be in deep. Thank you for bleeping out your profanity. If Dr. West was allowing the lesser evil false narrative right now, the next 30 days start today. Let's go. Yes. Now is always. Thank you, Tobias, for checking in. No, thank you, Penny, for watching. I appreciate it. Tobias says, keep winning. That's what we plan to do. Absolutely. Hold up the bloodstained banner. Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. West. We will win. Great. Thanks, Tracy. Great interview. No, thank you, Nicholas. He will be back. Thank you, Toby. Congrats. When is President West going to be on the show? Yes. I would love to get that interview. I'd love to get it. Beautiful. Thank you for all you do, Tracy. No, thank you all for watching. And another person that says I should continue the podcast into the future. So to wrap this up, remember to like this video, share it. I plan on sharing it once we get off of the air. Share it, please. Share it. If you are female, I'm trying to get up to it. All the ladies are invited to the virtual slumber party October the 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There is the link. I'm going to leave it up for a couple of seconds here so you can take down the address. It is on the website. Watch Saturday. There will be a Saturday show. I believe that is my Women for Dr. West show, I believe. Or it's my anniversary show because we've been doing this podcast a year. It's one or the other, but still watch it Saturday. The numbers that are watching now, you all need to tune in Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Watch this show, like this show, share it with someone, share it with your friends, even your enemies. Share it with them too. But remember, keep on your calendar that the virtual slumber party will be October the 19th at 8 p.m. It is for ladies only. We believe there's going to be an event for gentlemen that I hope I will be announcing on this coming Saturday. If not, we know we're going to have the one for ladies. So I am going to hit these last ones. And then we're gonna call it an evening. Thank you, Tracy. Stay strong, everyone. That's it. And as I always, I'm gonna play my outro. And remember to go west. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for all your comments. I knew I wasn't gonna get to all of them in the way I wanted to, but we're just gonna play our outro. I will see you Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a fantastic day.